Yes, this is the video you were all waiting for. I will explain what we think the problem is and talk about potential solutions. Okay, let's get right into the intro, of course. And as requested by some of you guys, here comes the music again. Okay, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. Now guys, seriously, let me explain what actually happened. Okay, I was just kidding. Let's get started now. We've got so many things to talk about. We shall play some music in the background. Nah, not this one. Let me just got it. After playing all these intros and music now, it's 11:30 p.m. It's far too late, so I will go to bed now and explain everything tomorrow to you. Okay, you have a good night's sleep. Hi, good morning guys. Without any further detour, let me come to the point. One of our team members of Team PHEV, Gerard, he was the first guy who got the battery replaced in his car. And as I've told you before, his state of health dropped dramatically afterwards. He wasn't of course happy, brought the car back, and they did some magic on the car. Since then, the car is totally fine. Well, it turned out Gerard is actually a programmer and coder. He's also a PHEV owner, of course. And what I didn't know before, he's also an actor playing in musicals. So good on you, Gerard. And of course, for the sake of the video, we want to concentrate on his software and coding skills at the moment. So to understand what was actually going on in his car, he looked into different forums where BMW software and codes were discussed. He also somehow, I don't know exactly how he did it, but he was able to log on to his car and read out his own BMW parameters. And he shared all these details in our forum with us. It is quite mind-blowing, and what I said in the other video before, it all makes sense now when you have all this inside information. And from looking at his own BMW in his car, he could see that the software has several registers, places where it memorizes settings and data. One of the registers contained the 38 ampere hour value of the battery. And as you all know, the BMW assumes, calculates, guesses the state of health of the battery and shows us the calculated state of health through the dog. 30.2, 30.1, 30 ampere hours. At some point, he went to the dealership and said, look, I'm down to 30 ampere hours. This is not good enough. This is not what you promised. After a long discussion with Mitsubishi, you know the whole story. We finally got the approval and commitment from Mitsubishi to replace the batteries. So what they did on his car is replacing the battery and resetting the BMW. And the reset, as we all know, does the following. It erases all the data of the BMW and resets it to 100%. Well, this is what we thought until he looked into it. Apparently, this is not the case. What a reset does is, the reset of the BMW does what a reset does. It wipes all the information in the BMW. The BMW is now wiped, reset, totally erased, and has no information about the battery anymore. And this is exactly where the whole problem starts. The BMW has no reference point anymore about the battery. It doesn't know anything about the battery, the size, the capacity, the age, nothing anymore. It's all wiped out. So all the dealerships have done it correctly. They followed the procedure of Mitsubishi Motors worldwide. This is the standard procedure which is currently in place and is the valid process to replace a battery. Replace the battery, reset the BMU. And then of course you get your car back and the BMU does not know anything about the battery. So what it does, it starts guessing. And at the beginning it says, okay, we are at 38 ampere hours. So, but there's no reference to compare it with. There's no calibration point ever. It starts with 38 ampere hours. And after a while it says, 38 ampere hours, maybe not so much. Better be conservative and protect the battery and go down. I'm not sure how large the battery is. I've got no reference point. 37.9. Next day, I'm not sure about this either. It looks like something is not working out. And we all know how this ends. After a short while, we are down to 35 ampere hours again. So this is the common procedure at the moment, what happens with all the cars. Then he got back to the dealership and said, look, this is not good enough. And Mitsubishi Motors Australia took the car back into the workshop, did some more testing. What they finally did was another reset, a cell smoothing procedure. And what they exactly did was another reset, so wiping all the information, a cell smoothing to bring all the cells to the optimal same level, and a DBCAM. And this does the following. So firstly they did another reset, wiped all the wrong information, the wrong calculated and stored information. The dealer then did a low-level cell smoothing procedure, as I have explained in one of my previous videos. And the most important part is, they did a DBCAM. And the DBCAM is the only procedure which can actually write information in this register up here. So cell smoothing, cell leveling, DBCAM writes the information back in the top register, 40 ampere hours. This is the nominal capacity of the battery. So, and from this day, the BMU was actually able to confirm these 40 ampere hours every single day, because it had a reference point. The register up here tells the BMU, this is what you should have. Have a look at the battery, how good it still is. And yes, the battery is still at 40 ampere hours. It still shows 40 ampere hours in the dog. And we know this sounds weird because we always thought 100% is 38 ampere hours, which it is. But the BMU actually knows about the 40 ampere hours, which we always thought is not the case. We always assumed the battery management unit knows only about the 38 ampere hours, not the 40. I explained this in one of my recent videos. The battery does not get overcharged in his car. It still stops the charging at 4.1 volts. And it also let the engine kick in at 3.7, 3.8 volts. So the bottom buffer and the top buffer are still reserved for battery longevity and are not being used in this case. But the software is now correctly calibrated. And another assumption we made wrongly is that the BMU actually can learn the true state of health of the battery. What Gerard told us on the forum, this is apparently not the case. From what he can see in the code, there's no way for the BMU to actually learn itself and puts information into the top register. There's no learning process of the BMU in terms of the state of health at all. So the only way to tell the BMU what the real state of health is through a DBCAM. DBCAM is the only procedure which can do that and which can set this top register for the software. And of course, now you will ask, Andy, what is happening to all these cars? They're running fine for the first 1 or 2 years and then they start dropping dramatically. And here comes the bad software into the game. The software has been calibrated maybe only once at the beginning of its life, and from there on it was left on its own to learn the state of health of the battery. And it does a pretty amazingly bad job in that, actually. It constantly compares what it should be to what it has calculated over time. And it has so many calculations done, which are all not correct. And you go to your dealership again, and the first thing they do is a DBCAM. So what a DBCAM does, it writes another register up here with the true state of health of the battery. But because they are not doing a reset, the BMU still remembers all these learned information down here, and it compares them with the new state of health. And it still says, well, but my experience is that the battery is down to 35, not to 37. After the DBCAM, the level probably goes up just a little tiny bit. And this is exactly what we have seen so many times on the forums, that after a DBCAM, the state of health of the battery shown in the dog went up just a little bit, 35 to 35.2 ampere hours. And this is because the BMU still remembers all the other wrong information in its registers down here. Just imagine the following. The BMU has maybe a register of 500 learned state of health entries in his memory. And then the DBCAM comes and writes another reference point in the upper register, which is far higher than the actual calculated ones from the BMU. Just imagine you do the average of all these 500 lower values, and then there's one which is far up. The average will not rise that much just because of this one last correctly calculated state of health. So what it does, that's just how you can imagine it. It takes the average of all these values. And this is exactly the reason why the DBCAM alone does not make any progress in this whole process. So the only correct way to do it, so before you do a DBCAM, you have to do a reset. You have to do a reset on the BMU to get rid of all these wrong learned information. Then you do the DBCAM, and from now you're fine. Once the car is turned on, the BMU sees only this value here and says, okay, my battery is at 37 ampere hours. The next value I'm calculating is 37 ampere hours, because it has no memory of the wrong calculated figures before. And of course, because the software is not optimal programmed, it will lose track after a while again. It constantly compares these 37 ampere hours of the DBCAM with what it actually calculates and what the history is. So it will build up a history of wrong calculated state of health again over time. And again, this shows only how not optimal the software is being programmed. And of course, now you will ask, Andy, what is happening with all these brand new cars? The 2019 models, which we see plummeting down on the dog website. And you said this is clearly not normal. And you're totally right. This is definitely not normal. So we are not 100% sure what happens with the new cars. But from what we can see, it looks like the software of new cars is not being calibrated. So what we think happens in new cars is you got a brand new battery with 40 ampere hours of capacity. There's nothing wrong with the battery. And you got your brand new BMU. This I'm just using the PHEV box as a BMU. So what they are doing in the factory, brand new battery, brand new BMU, they put them together and sell the vehicle to the customer. The brand new BMU has no calibration, no information whatsoever about the battery. It cannot refer back to any information how large the battery is, how old it is, what capacity it has. And there could be two reasons for that. Either the BMU comes from the manufacturer in China or Japan or whoever is manufacturing these devices, and it's not pre-programmed to the battery. All registers are totally empty. Or maybe what we think they are doing is, once they pair the battery with the BMU, they do a reset as per Mitsubishi instructions. New battery, new BMU, new car, do a reset, and then give it out to the customer. Same result, all registers are empty. There's no reference point for the BMU at all where to start. So it starts, of course, guessing. It starts guessing, and because the software is programmed conservatively, it will go down fairly steep, as we have all seen. If the BMU is brand new and has no information whatsoever about the battery, how does it work then? So it can only estimate what is going on. So it starts at 38 ampere hours, but as we said before, it's conservative. It rates the battery down fairly quickly, and we see this huge drop in health in the forums on the PHEV watchdog.net website, and people are not happy about that because there is no reference point. The software cannot reference back to any set parameters about the battery. It does not know how big this battery is. There's no label on it. How do you tell how large this battery is if you don't have a label? Well, as you can imagine, this is only, I guess, a speculation, an assumption from what we can see at the moment. We are not sure if this is really the case, but it damn looks like they are not programming the BMU correctly, either when the car is new or when they do a DBCAM in existing cars. So a DBCAM in existing cars will only make sense if you do a reset before. But this is not common knowledge in any dealership at all. Not even Mitsubishi Japan seems to know about this. So whenever you go to your dealership and ask for a DBCAM, it will not make sense without a reset. The figures coming back from the dog after a pure DBCAM, after a DBCAM only, reflects only an average of all the information the BMU has learned in his history, plus the big spike at the end, which is the true state of health of the battery. But the yellow card in the battery condition tab of the PHEV watchdog is not what has been measured at the point of time of the DBCAM. This is only showing the average of learned information plus the real state of health of the battery at the end, done by the DBCAM. And this is only what we discover, what Gerard thinks the software works like. The software is not able to determine the state of health and update the register itself. At the moment we have got only 2 cars which had the reset, the smoothing and the DBCAM. They are both fine. We will have another car going back in next week, and potentially my car will be the week after. Going back in, do another reset, cell smoothing, cell leveling, and finally the DBCAM to write the information of the battery back in the register. Well guys, from what we can see right now, it seems to be the only option at the moment to get this right. Reset the BMU and do a smoothing and a DBCAM. As it needs to be in this particular order to achieve the same result. And we also think, but don't quote me on that, we don't know, this is just speculation, this reset, this balancing and smoothing will also work for existing cars. The reset gets rid of all the wrong information. The DBCAM sets the new correct value, and from there on the software works fine for a while. The software still will be out of whack. So after a while, but this should be at least 1, 2 or 3 years away, we may have to bring the car back in and do the same procedure again. Reset the BMU of all history data and do a fresh DBCAM to determine the true state of health of the battery. Okay guys, so this is what we know at the moment. That's what our experience is. This is what we have found out in the last couple of weeks. And I'm very happy to share this information with you now. And of course, this is all what I just made up. This is not exactly how the BMU works, but it breaks it down, and hopefully it was not too hard to understand. So don't quote me on things like it does an average of all the history and then the last DBCAM with the true state of health. This is not actually how it works in real life, but to understand how it comes to this fault, it's easier to have this picture in your mind, how it roughly works. So please don't quote me on any of these things. This is just what I make up for the video now to keep it as simple as possible. I hope I did. And again, hopefully, this is the easy fix we have all waited for. It's not a software update, well, not yet. It's just a reset, a DBCAM, a cell smoothing in between, and you should be fine for the next 2 or 3 years until this whole situation happens again. And on the negative side of things, this is not officially confirmed by Mitsubishi yet. They are happy to help, they are happy to endorse these procedures now on the existing cars where the battery has been replaced. So obviously there's more investigation necessary what is going on, but basically this is what is happening right now and this is how you fix it. So the PHEV cure might be as simple as reset, smoothing, DBCAM. And these are all tools which the dealership already has, and there are no replacement parts necessary. But quite obvious, nobody has ever looked into the software or procedure side of things in terms of the battery calibration, the software calibration with the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. At this point of stage, I would like to thank again everyone from the Team PHEV for pushing this forward with Mitsubishi Motors Australia, finding the fix, the cure. Well, we all hope it's the cure. It's an easy cure. It's like the vaccination for the PHEV. And of course, we will keep working with Mitsubishi here in Australia together to improve the procedures they have in place for battery replacements, for managing existing cars, for making the software better, and for maintaining their existing fleet of PHEVs here in Australia and worldwide. And I can only imagine that you have now tons of questions and comments about this whole process. Please leave them all down below in the comment field. I'm sure the Team PHEV will closely watch the comments here and will be happy to respond to your questions and messages. Especially Gerard, who has discovered this software glitch, this BMU glitch. Thanks again for all your time, Gerard, to look into this problem. All in your own time, not being paid from Mitsubishi, not being asked by Mitsubishi to do any of this research. This is just purely what we are doing in our private time to push this one forward here. We all want the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV to succeed. Okay guys, so far this little video, well, it's not as little as... I actually never expected it to be a short video anyway. There's so much to talk about it still. So please leave your comments and questions down below. We will hop onto them straight away and start a discussion here on YouTube. And what we would like to see is, if you have a brand new car, if you have a used one, it doesn't matter, go back to your dealership, show them the video, talk to them, try to start an open dialogue with your dealership, provide information, assist them in helping get this fixed for your car. And all the credit for me making this video goes to Gerard, of course, because he has discovered, he thinks he has discovered what is actually wrong with the BMU and the software and the state of health in the battery. I would like to thank the Team PHEV for their commitment in pushing this ahead here. I would like to thank you guys for watching, for your assistance. I am Andy from Unplugged EV Australia, signing off. You stay charged, and for sure we will see us in the next video very soon. Okay guys, see you then, bye bye.